UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy Star ship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Konnichiwa, Yarakushi Kyo no Betsu no Episodo I Yokoso. To our listeners in Japan, I really hope that translated as welcome to another episode of Galaxy Class, which is, as you know, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I am, let's go for the head of 7-year-old birthday parties. And joined with me today is Councillor Amy Nelson and Chief Recreational Officer Ria Papagiorgio. How are you guys both today?
How are you doing?
Doing great. Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Ria.
I don't like that. What's going on, Ria?
It's been an icky poo month. It's I've been demoted from Chief Recreational Officer to Chief of Shattered Dreams. So yeah. So bleh.
Oh.
So how are you guys?
I did see a meme that was like January has 150 days, it feels like. And I'm like, yep, it's been a very long month.
Well, yeah, I saw people comment about January, and I assumed the January, I can't even say it, finished on the 1st of January. That was my rule. I thought I'd go with head of 7-year-old birthday parties because I'm just home from my nephew's 7th birthday party.
Oh,
which, do you know, it was fine. It was nice to see family and people that you don't see time, but I'm going to have the excuse of drinking a glass of wine. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, Ria, we do have some recreational officer duties for you to get on board because next month we have the cruise coming up.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
No, Joe, I need that so badly.
True.
And it looks like it's going to be amazing. And Gowron himself, Robert O'Reilly, has just been added to the cruise lineup. So,
yes.
You know, I'm excited.
He's a cool guy. I like him.
He's also a fellow Greek Orthodox guy.
I didn't know he was Greek. Is he of Greek descent? Or did he just did he just convert?
No, there was no Roman Catholic priest available when he was baptized, so he was baptized by a Greek Orthodox priest. So,
Wow.
So I claim him. He is one of my people.
Nice.
It's another example of Ria claiming that Greece invented the world.
I also claim Natalia Nagulich, who's Russian Orthodox. So there you go.
There you
it's
go.
It's all the same. And I claim Sirach Lofton because his mom's Ethiopian and Ethiopian Orthodox. So there you go.
Oh.
Claiming.
Wow.
Claiming.
You're spreading your net wide. Okay.
Claiming.
Sure, claim away. It doesn't mean any of it's true, but there you go. Shall we check the communication array to see if we have any comments from our listeners?
Logs accessed.
Amy, do you want to take this?
I certainly do. We have a lovely comment regarding our last Batleth battle, where we discuss the loss versus ethics. And that was Galaxy Class number 74. If you haven't listened, it was a fun episode. And Paul Wright writes in on the Federation Council chamber and says, I can't believe you guys let Amy talk you into voting for the loss. Tilted laughing face.
Cry emoji, yeah. Do you know what? It's fine. It's just a game we play of matching episodes up. And I went in thinking these episodes are pretty evenly matched. And the one data point that swayed me was that two-dimensional thing between the two-dimensional entities and...
in the storyline.
Yeah, the way Troy was seen her crewmates as being two-dimensional because she'd lost her empathic powers. So it was just that idea that they'd thought in that much detail about the creation of the episode won it for me.
Yeah.
That was close. I mean, I listened to our episode yesterday when I was driving, and I mean, I kept going back and forth. And going in, I don't know who I would have voted for if I were on it. But, because I consider ethics to be a Worf episode, of course, so I might have a little Klingon bias there. But what takes me out of that episode is that container bouncing off his back. But yeah, that was a real. Those two, that was a tough battle. Glad I wasn't on it.
I've still not seen the container bounce, so yeah,
Oh my God.
I think it just that's what happens in Star Trek. They're designed to bounce to hurt you less. So
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've been complaining about that since Earl Grey days.
yeah,
Yes.
I suppose as our ex dear friend Christos Genaris
I know.
replied to Paul saying, "Seriously, listeners, you have to know that there's a group chat, and Christos is in the group chat with Amy and I, and
also Christos is Greek, just so you know.
Yeah, that doesn't really add anything to this part of the conversation though, Rhea. I think Christos is really angry, like legitimately angry. I think maybe if he'd been listening while driving to work, he got to work and then jumped in a big caterpillar digger thing and maybe used it to trash his car. I think if he was maybe at home having a glass of wine, he would have launched the glass of wine at a wall. He was that apoplectically angry, if apoplectically is a word. I'm claiming it as a word. Yeah,
Must be Scottish.
There was. I felt rage. Now that way, when you read text, you kind of apply tone to it, and maybe you get it wrong. I felt deep-seated like hell.
If there was a
rage
rage font,
yes,
his was
that
written
would
in
be
rage font.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, we got told off big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But hey, do you know what? It's only a TV show. Get a life, as William Shatner once said.
Oh my gosh.
Just keep pouring the fuel on the fire there, Joe.
Yeah, says me that's doing a podcast about Star Trek on a Saturday night. Yeah. And I think that's the only feedback we have. Apparently, Amy, you replied that you were as shocked as Paul. Purely shocked that you thought that Kevin and I were going to vote for ethics.
I was completely, when I went in, I was like, I'm completely expecting to lose the loss because of so many comments and was just for the ethics and how strong an episode. And it is. I absolutely love that episode. And I just have a passion for Troy and math and counseling. And this episode really summed it up nicely for me. So I really am shocked.
Oh, and by the way, Joe, you didn't have me fooled. I knew you were voting for the loss.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. At the end there, when it was time to give your votes, and of course you voted first, Amy, and then it was Joe's turn. I'm like, oh, Joe's going to vote for the loss. Joe's going to vote for the loss. And you went in there, started talking about ethics. I'm like, no, he's trying to set us up. He's voting for the loss.
That may have been intentional, but yeah, we'll have to keep our listeners listening, I suppose, don't we? Have to give them something. So yeah, but thanks for listening. Christos, we still love you, even though you hate us. I hope you can listen in the future when your rage dissipates.
And just know that you have much more body hair than Joe, and you can rest in the comfort of that knowledge.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
Listeners, continuing our This Is My Trek series, we have another lifelong TNG fan whose career and personal life have come full circle back into the Trek universe. It is our great pleasure and privilege to introduce Noah Averbach-Katz to you. Woo! Noah, how are you today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me. It was great to hear my name with that accent. Usually it's much more American, but I love that. That was fantastic. You did a great job. This is not a
That's I'm always worried that my accent mashes stuff up.
Well, with that accent, you can't get it wrong.
Exactly.
You know? There's no way to get it wrong.
Well, do you know what? At the top of the podcast, I welcomed our Japanese listeners in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese, but Google Translate taught me how to say it. And I'm really hoping it's not something about their grandmothers up a mountain. So but that could be possible. Anyways.
I'm just waiting to hear my name in the original Klingon, and then I'll have the complete set, I think.
Rhea, Amy, do you know Klingon?
I'll get married cheap.
There you go. I think you've got a better connection.
I think you might, yes. Noah, I wanted to ask you, first of all, a little bit about Discovery, I suppose, in your work on Star Trek. If, say, I approached a US federal judge and asked for a search warrant for, like, your, I don't know, the house you grew up in, your any house you've ever lived in, and searched through all your belongings, would we find a kind of life goals list from when you were a teenager that said, live long and prosper, get a job on Star Trek, marry a Star Trek actor? That's my shoe-in.
Well, first off, I think if you approached a U.S. federal judge, they'd put you on a no-fly list pretty quickly. Just say that. You know, it's funny. Growing up, even though I was acting my whole life and went to school for it and all that stuff, I never really put Star Trek on the list of things to do, mainly, I think, because when acting turned from something I was doing in high school and middle school into something that I was considering pursuing a little bit more rigorously, it was really like at the lull of Trek. Like when I was in undergrad, the last or like maybe the second Trek movie had come out, and it was really felt like, oh, you know, and then when I was growing up, Enterprise had come to an end right when I was like starting high school, really, or maybe even a little bit before that. So it didn't really feel, it sort of felt like, oh, this is not really a thing you could get in on. And I never really even thought about it, you know. The only time I really thought about it was after I graduated from graduate school. There was like a rumor, you know, it was early. It was like 2014, a rumor that it was coming back. And I was like, I texted I must have been with my manager at that point. It's like, hey, listen, if you hear anything about this, let me try and get in on this. That's really the only thing I've ever in my entire life been like, do you think you could get me in for that? Everything I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But that was like, let me reach out for that. So you wouldn't find anything from me as a child, but as an adult, that was definitely on my radar. And, you know, I definitely wasn't expecting to marry into the Trek family. You know, Mary and I were dating for years before she booked Star Trek. And it was really, you know, one of the great things was like, you know, it was like, oh, you know, neither of us have a ton of money. Weddings are expensive. I don't know. You know, we're kind of like bouncing around theater jobs. And then she got Star Trek. It was like, oh, well, we're getting married tomorrow. This is done.
How big a wedding do you want?
Yeah, done. Exactly.
That's awesome. So there was no, you know, Bajoran orb of prophecy when you were at Juilliard there that you're like,
I don't know. That would be my mom, you know, because I feel like my mom was like, you know, set me on this path early on, as you know, Maria. And then it took, you know, it took 30 years to come to fruition, but it finally got there, I think.
Finally, a child pays off.
That's so interesting about the paths you take, about what you think you can't do in life. And I suppose in these times where we realise through COVID that time is really important, you look back on your life and you think, now the road not taken. I remember growing up in high school, and the path for me during high school was either to be a musician and go and study music, or go and do science and study physics. And I took that option, and it's why I'm now a high school physics teacher. But music is always that thing that I love to do.
Well, you never know. You could have gotten into music and be like, oh, wow, this industry sucks. I've ruined this for me and now I hate it. So you never know.
Absolute reasoning behind it. I did not want to do something that I loved as a job and have the potential that it wasn't going to work out.
You know, it's funny because when I first booked the show, I was obviously super excited, but then I was really, really worried because I was like, man, you know, if I do this show and I'm on set and I have a miserable time, this is going to suck for the rest of my life. You know, here's this thing where it's like, it's connected to my wife and my mom. And, you know, it's something we grew up doing together. It has so much sort of impact. But sometimes, you know, when you step behind the curtain of these things, you look and you see, oh, this is horrid. You know, this sucks back here. I wish I had never seen the gears working, you know, what's at play back here. So I was very, very fortunate for the experience that I did have on set, and how wonderful it was, and how wonderful everybody was working with, because it really could have been a double, you know, mega disaster. Yes. So I'm glad I was able to not have to deal with that.
So I have a follow-up question to that. Now that you, are an actor, successful, and you're seen, you know, behind.
Easy on the successful part.
So are you still loving acting, or have you seen, I want to produce. Oh, I want to direct. Are you getting bugs to go elsewhere? I sort of get that question a lot. I'm a teacher, and I love teaching math. And I'll get people, they're like, oh, are you going to go into administration? Like, is that the next progress? I'm like, no, I love being a teacher. That's what I want to do.
Right. You know, it's interesting because, well, yeah. You know, the answer is yes. A lot of it is out of necessity, you know, especially during the pandemic, especially when I was up in Canada with Mary while she was shooting season 4 and we were in full on lockdown, pre-vaccine, borders closed. You have to find things to do with your time to keep yourself, you know, occupied. And also time, you know, I think a lot of people had this experience where like time away from the thing they've been sort of churning out for years and years and years, make them sort of reevaluate it, especially as you get a little bit older. You know, you sort of can really make decisions about what you like and what you don't like. And so I've definitely been interested in, you know, creating some of my own stuff and been very lucky that the pandemic, lucky that it has given me a little bit of space and time to do that kind of stuff and sort of shed some of, you know, I think anybody in any position, especially in work, you can get in a really fixed mindset about what you are. And especially in the acting world, in the creative world, a lot of the time your personal identity gets so deeply tied into not even the art that you make, but the jobs that you get. You know, like, so being able to pull that apart a little bit, and especially coming from like a really intense, single-minded graduate school program, being able to sort of unwrap that a little bit, I feel like has been good. And so, yeah, I have some stuff on the horizon, which hopefully I'll get out there soon. I'm working on it, but even doing stuff like, you know, the Twitch stuff I'm doing or the D&D streaming stuff, I don't think I ever would have done that 2 or 3 years ago. So just stuff to sort of stretch my comfort zone or stretch my what I think I can do has been enjoyable and has kept me busy. So the answer is yes, and more to come.
You know what? That's really exciting. I think I'm of the mind where we only have one life and we have to maximize it. I'm a bit like Amy, where I'm happy being a classroom teacher, but I don't want my entire life to be taken up with teaching and being at work and being at school. So I have loads of hobbies. Do you know what? If my life isn't full of hobbies, then I'm doing something wrong. I've got my dogs. Life is good. I know it's in COVID times, but yeah, I think it's really important that we do stretch ourselves and reach out and kind of embrace everything that life throws at us. So that's really cool. I suppose you've talked a bit about what the future holds for you without really letting away any secrets. I wanted to kind of delve into the past a little bit. Do you know what? When you're preparing for a podcast, you could trawl the depths of the internet. And I wanted to ask you about something that you've said in the past. So, the number 7 is the number 7. If you call it the number 8, you don't actually make it the number 8. You just embarrass yourself. God. Likewise, men are better at invention than women. Just a fact.
Hold on. Wait a second. Don't you dare read the rest of this. That's not something I said. I got paid by CBS All Access to say that.
That was my segue into you being on The Good Fight. Season 1, episode 6.
Yes. So all right. So this is actually related to Star Trek, which I'm sure maybe you're getting to. But one of my first TV jobs was playing this, like, basically like a shitty internet troll. It was almost like, it was sort of even like people didn't even really understand how I felt like maybe even in that episode, this was like 2016 maybe, and people didn't even understand how crappy those people were. So it was sort of like it was a bit cartoony, but I don't even think that people would put it on TV now, and nor should they. Whatever, doesn't matter. So I was playing an absolute piece of crap.
Yeah, do you know what? I was going to get to that. It was a character you were playing, but I think that's something that The Good Fight does brilliantly. It reflects what's going on in real life in this drama setting.
But this was like happening while all like the Milo Yiannopoulos stuff was happening. I think that's how you say his name. So it was like supposed to be that. Whatever. The actual thing that is related to Star Trek about this is that. So I did that. Whatever, it was, it was a thing that I did. But when one of the first times I was sort of up on set at Star Trek early on season 1, like, very, very early on, it was during the first filming of what was After Trek, which they did remote from Toronto because everyone was like so involved in shooting. And I was up there and it was one of my first times on set, and I was so excited to be on set. I mean, like you can imagine, you all can imagine how exciting that would be. And so I've got all my pictures of me, at conventions when I was 13, with my mom. You've seen them all, Ria. And I'm looking around for somebody to show these pictures to, somebody who can share in my excitement. And eventually I would find that with the entire crew, it turns out basically everyone on the crew is so excited to be working. But at the time, everyone is like, this is episode 3 or 4. They shot the first 2 in Jordan. So this is really maybe the first or second episode, like on set. So everybody's sort of locked in, trying to just like focus on work. I'm looking around, nobody wants to talk. And also nobody knows who I am. The people don't really even know who Mary is. You know what I mean? They don't know if like she's going to get blown up in 30 seconds. So they're just like, we need to work them. So finally, I think we're in a car heading over to the set where they're shooting remote After Trek. And I'm just looking around and I'm sitting next to Akiva Goldsman, and I'm like, do you want to see these pictures? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I show him the pictures, and he's like looking at him. He's like, he pulls out his phone and he shows me pictures of him in like 74 at a Star Trek convention. And so then we are like going back, oh my God, isn't this cool? Can you believe this? I'm talking to, we're like going back and forth. I'm listening to him and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, we got to get you in as an extra. And I'm like, I would do anything. Oh my God, this is so exciting, And we're just like hacking it up as 2 Star Trek fans. We do it, all through After Trek. We're sitting there and like he's like in producer mode a little bit, but every once in a while he'll like give me a thumbs up when they mention something Star Trek-y, because nobody else will sort of know what he's talking about. And we go over to, it's like this sort of after show dinner, whatever, just like sort of a meet and greet mingle thing for the cast and crew and producing team. And I'm sitting at the table with him, and we're, talking it up, and there's a guy sitting across from me, and we're just talking, oh, how do you meet Mary? Oh, we were at school together. And he's like, I'm not the one who's going to get you on the show. The guy who's going to get you on the show is Alex, who's Alex Kurtzman, just like sitting to my left. And I'm like, oh, that's like so nice to meet you. And right as I'm like introducing myself, somebody kind of comes up to my left. It's like, hey, do I know you? And I was like, no, there's absolutely no way. It's like a woman who I'd never seen before. And she's like, no, I do. How do I know you? And I'm like, do I know you from something? Are you an actor? I'm like, no, there's no way. I'm sorry. Like, unless you saw, Bad Jews at the Studios Theater in Washington, D.C. in 2015, get out of here. And she's like, no, I do. Oh, that's right. You were on The Good Fight. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was like, oh, that's right. I worked for CBS All Access, now Paramount Plus. I worked for you guys before any of this was even going on. And like right in that moment, Alex was like, oh, this isn't just like a Star Trek super fan who's like the husband. This guy is like a real actor who has worked for this network already. And so that sort of like, I just saw in that little moment, it was like, oh, this is like a person who I can have on my radar now. And basically from that little interaction, fast forward 4.5 years or whatever, that's then I'm on the show basically because of that. I think because of that little interaction, just like sort of putting me on the radar.
Wow. That random, highly paid stranger that came up at just the right time. Wink, wink.
I know, right? It was perfect, man. Well, I was actually worried because when they came up, I was like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. Like, don't I know you? Aren't you from something? And I'm like, no. And they're like, you're just some idiot then. And walk away, So it really worked out. So that little good fight, being an absolute jerk in that episode really came around, and hopefully I redeemed myself on Star Trek later on.
I watched, so that's the thing. I watched it today. But the episode was called Social Media and Its Discontents, and that's what the episode is about. How do you filter out trolls and people that are being abusive and sending death threats to folk? How do you kind of filter that out of the internet? And your character is, I think you have 2 lines.
I've got this monologue at the very top of the episode, and then I have a couple other cutscenes, and then I have like a little scene with one of the characters. But it was like 2 days, it wasn't a ton.
So being a jerk pays off, so I'm not going to change myself in any way, shape, or form.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I was worried about meeting you today. Star Trek fans say how great you are, and I was thinking, that can't be him in real life. And I was like, no, he's an actor.
This guy.
He's acting. Yeah, it's a different thing.
I know.
So that's good. And you seem pretty nice just now, so... Yeah, you're not that jerk from the good fight.
Well, we'll see. Okay. There's plenty of time left.
Oh, well, we've got 19 minutes left. Let's go quicker. I was going through your IMDb a little bit earlier, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the Metromaniacs, and you played Durante off Broadway. But did your Ponder ad follow that? Ponder ad's hilarious.
The Ponder ad. Ponder. Oh my God. I can't. This is a deep dive. So the Ponder ad was early. I did that like 2 months after I graduated. Ponder was some weird social media app, which I think is defunct, that like Mark Cuban some 14-year-old created some app, and then Mark Cuban gave him like $1 million to try it. Anyway, the only interesting thing about that Ponder ad is I went to high school with this guy named Matt Furpo, who at the time was this sort of up and coming director. And we had like done some like film kid stuff in high school. And I can't remember, maybe he reached out to me, or we sort of just reconnected because he had gone to NYU and I was in New York. He's like, hey, I have this silly ad. Like, you want to do it with me? It's, whatever. And I said, of course. So we had this fun thing, and it's this fun, goofy, silly ad where I'm all dressed up. But Matt is this like insanely talented filmmaker and writer and creator. And he's done all these incredible projects, like sort of highlighting like third world countries and like food insecurity and, climate change videos. He's just like this incredible world traveling filmmaker who got hired by Disney and Marvel to write the Eternals movie. And so he's the guy who made the Eternals and wrote that and everything. And I'm sure he'll do more. So that's the only thing interesting about
that's
Ponder.
A bit of a leap from Ponder, which I think is I felt like a very British ad.
Yes, it is, and it's a very bad British
accent.
I
didn't even notice.
It's better than Joe's Scottish accent. So.
Well, yeah. I'm in my mum's basement in Idaho. Yeah. Do you know? Because I'd watched something from Metromaniacs just before Ponder, and they just felt very similar. The whole get up.
Yes, they are. That is so funny. I never thought about that. Yeah, Metromaniacs was this off-Broadway play that I got to do by an author named David Ives, who's kind of a famous playwright who wrote Venus in Fur that was on Broadway and stuff. And that was really cool, because growing up, he wrote a short story, or not a short story, like a short play collection that I did in high school. That's like the classic high school short play thing, because they're so funny and goofy. And anybody in America who's done like short 10-minute plays has done this. I don't remember what it's called, but like, and then I was in, undergrad reading his plays. So getting to do that was so cool. And Stephen Sondheim came and saw one of our shows once, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's like sort of the same foppiness. It was very fun.
Yeah. Feels like it's out the same era, same costuming, obviously lyrically very different.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've done a little bit of amateur theatre in the dim and distant past in musicals, and I think as soon as they switch the lights on, it's like a mind wipe. Do I remember lines? No. So the idea of the Metromaniacs being it's almost like that recitative.
It's very fast, and it was all in rhyming couplets, so you couldn't make mistakes, which sucked. Usually in a play, you can kind of, you don't have to get the word perfect, but you had to be word perfect because it was all, it's basically like rhyming Shakespeare. It was sort of like a Moliere type show, but it was super fun, and everyone was great. That was a really good time.
And probably good preparation for Star Trek, because my understanding is that's also...
I didn't have to do much techno babble in that. And actually, what was funny is that I worked with David a lot, who plays Book, and he's like, can I say this? Can I say that? And they're just like, yeah, sure, do whatever you want. So like, I would just sort of follow in his wake and then just start saying whatever the hell I wanted. And it was great. So like, it was way easier because we'd say the lines right once or twice, and then David would be like, I'm going to try, I'm going to do this or do that or whatever. And then I'd be like, well, if he's doing it, then I'm going to do it. Nobody's going to get angry at him. So they're definitely not going to get angry at me. So I was off the hook because of him. And I didn't have any super complex techno about, which I would be prepared for. I'm ready. I've trained my whole life for it.
So that's pretty interesting you say that, because we interviewed Mark Rolson. But he was saying, like, when he was a guest appearance on Star Trek, like the directors would like leave the main cast alone because they were guest directors. And so he felt he was more directed by the directors than the regular cast. So interesting to hear you say that you sort of followed, David's lead on that by changing things up. Whereas like, did you feel more directed by the directors as not a main cast?
Well, I don't think so. I think, it's very different, because in the old main cast days, you're just working at a different pace, right? You have to get out 24 episodes. You have 2 weeks to shoot each one. You don't have time. And so, that, your main cast knows what they're doing. And even if you don't believe that they do, it doesn't really matter, because, just let them do what they're going to do and just make sure. And then really, it's why when you bring on a guest who you don't know, it's often, especially in Star Trek, different than like, think about like CSI or something like that, where it's focused on the main cast and then the guest stars sort of come in to like give exposition or like be hunted by the main cast. Whereas in Star Trek, you have these guests coming in who really, like a lot of the weight of the episode often falls on the back of these guests. And if they don't deliver, then the episode sort of falls apart a little bit. And I feel like it's like you have to put that energy into the guests when you have that little time. So much is riding on somebody who you don't know. It's why, especially in the older, you know what I mean?
The legacy Star Trek.
Legacies, it's like you have reoccurring guests because you don't have time and you need to find somebody you can trust. And the prestige factor for us is there. But if you in 94, between 98, like getting a Star Trek guest spot is not the prestige that it is now, or getting a guest spot on TV is not the prestige it is now, where it would be, getting a guest spot on a prestige TV like Star Trek or like Wheel of Time or whatever, like a bigger show like that it is a big deal in a way that it wasn't as much back then. So you couldn't really pick. You didn't have always the people that you wanted or the access to the people that you wanted because they might be trying to do something else. So I feel like nowadays there is there is just like definitely a different focus, of like there's more time, even though time is definitely a pretty highly valued commodity. There's more time. There's just I think in general like a lot more trust to people coming in, because they know that they're kind of getting people that they can trust off the bat, And then I also think, the other thing is like from what I've heard, and this is hearsay, but like in previous, like it was very much like the word is Lord, like you really have to follow what's written in the script to a T. And I feel like on the newer shows, there's much more, or my experience on set was that there's more negotiation. There's more, let's try it like this and we'll try it like that. So you don't have to sort of be on people as much to say, you screwed up these two words. It's not as important, which I think is a good thing. And I also think, it feels like there's so many familiar faces on set that a lot of the vibe when things are going well is much more communal, relaxed, a lot less pressure driven when things are going well. And especially in my time on set, David had shot these 2 episodes in Iceland with some of the crew, but also a huge amount of like Icelandic crew. And so this was his, and the episode that we were in, that first episode we did, like this was his time to step into kind of the leading man of the show. Sonequa wasn't in those sections of the episode. There was no other series regular in those sections of the episode. So those were sort of his moments to step into that sort of like series regular style position. And so it sort of felt like it was something that he was sort of like getting to, in a good way, sort of flex and work into it and grow into. And so it didn't feel like, oh, like, well, let's put focus on, these guys as he figures out. It was like, let's try and, drift off of what David is doing and sort of make something really cool and fun and exciting happen, which was just so much fun to work on. So yeah, that was sort of my experience. It's just so much different than it used to be. It really is extremely different.
Yeah, I mean, these are like hour-long cinematic masterpieces, not, cranking out the 26 episodes, like you say.
Yeah. It's just, and just, the industry is so much different, like every industry 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it's just so different that it's a lot has changed. And I think a lot of it for the better, probably.
And then you coming in as a guest star, speaking of trust, it's not like you're some stranger off the streets of Toronto. I mean, you'd been hanging around for a while, leading the D&D games, as I understand it.
Well, that happened after.
Okay.
In season 3, I was thinking, I'm going to move up to Toronto with Mary for the first time. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? I'll start D&D and like, oh, we'll see. And then I got on the show and I was like, well, I'm not doing that, whatever, But then the next year when everyone had free time, and it was during COVID and we couldn't be in the same house together. So we all did that over Zoom. And that wound up being a really good way to stay connected with people, because one of the most fun things about being on set is getting to hang out and, lightly party with everybody. It's just so much fun and everyone's so sweet. So it was a real bummer to not be able to do that. And this was a great way to stay connected with people and also get to know like Blue and Ian, who I hadn't really met at all. Just get to know them both really well. And that was really special as well. And then just kind of keep the good times rolling, basically.
So were other castmates, were they already D&D people, or did you just like rope them into this world?
Anthony was, well, nobody was quite as much as me, but Anthony was, Blue was as well. But everybody else was totally roped in, and they will be continued to be roped in. You'll just see more, at first it was like, what's going on? And then slowly people would like kind of poke their heads in or whatever. And more people are interested in like, what's going on here? Maybe you guys are on to something here. So more and more people are sort of knocking at the door now.
It's a shame. I was going to play the sympathy card and say I grew up with, like, literally, I didn't have any friends growing up. I was a loner. I was, like, really shy. But D&D would be, like, if I had friends, would be the thing I played, because it's the thing you see teenagers play on American TV shows. So if you needed, like, another player, I was just going to put myself forward. Like, I'm available via Zoom, like, whenever you need. So,
all right, there you go. There we go. All right, another one knocking on the door.
Hammering.
And now that, so now you have this platform. I mean, you're not just, some Star Trek actor's husband hanging around. You're Noah, A.K., you're Rin. So you've got the your D&D games that you do. You've got your Type 1 Trekkie. You've been involved with Hollywood Food Coalition. So what other kind of charitable work, or how have you used this platform to kind of give back?
Like the first thing I did, I was, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've been involved in these communities for a while. And I put in my bio, sort of during my first sort of outing onto Twitter, I was a type 1 diabetic. And somebody made this amazing little graphic that was just like a cool Star Trek / diabetes graphic. And I just sort of ran with that and just like started a fundraiser for this organization called T1 International, which is this fantastic organization that doesn't take money from pharmaceutical companies. So the money's really important, and they empower different communities across the States and across the world. And it's just a fantastic organization that's like really trying to do it right. And I just sort of like was like, hey, Star Trek fans, like, let's do this, And so we did a big fundraiser. It was just like all on Twitter. And then I did like, then some fans reached out to me like, hey, I want to 3D print some of the graphics, And so I had all these 3D printed, essentially like custom comm badges mailed to me. And then I sort of like sold those as a fundraiser, So like I had an autographed photo and that, and we raised, between those two, like $18,000 for this organization. And so that was just amazing. And that's just based off of, what's so great is like, I understand the community so well because I am in the community, You know what I mean? Like I really get it. And so just knowing that, putting the call out to Star Trek fans to like support something that is really meaningful, that people would just show up, and they did. And it's just been fantastic. And the organization was so appreciative to have not just the financial support, but like the visibility and the, it just helps everyone who's working there or volunteering there to feel boosted and energized. And that's so important, and recognized for the work that they're doing. So it was just really a fantastic thing. And then, getting to work with John Billingsley on the Hollywood Food and the Trektivism thing. And I've sort of like joined their little crew. So I'm excited to see what they have in store. And yeah, it's just like kind of an ongoing thing. And I think it's nice. It's just such a great part of the community. That's such like a built-in part of this community. You don't have to convince people that this is something that they should be excited about. It's not an offshoot. It is what the community is.
Noah, as you talk about what you're doing, like with type 1 diabetes and the Hollywood Food Coalition, like those are all amazing, good things. And I want to know, do you feel it a responsibility or is this truly a passion? So many times I think it's hard to understand your place and position and expectation and responsibility, and try and balance all of that as you become famous and this celebrity status. I mean, okay, yeah, well, I get it. You're no Chris Pine. I get it.
Sure, but I have a platform.
Did you develop that? Did you think about it? Or are you just steering it as you go? I just sort of wonder that balance that you have of expectation versus responsibility as an actor.
In terms of like expectation or responsibility, just in terms of Star Trek, really, it's like, I feel like if you're going to be a part of the online Star Trek community, the in-person Star Trek community, that part of your experience in the community has to be tied to something that is like more than fandom. I feel like that is a part of Star Trek fandom as I understand it and have understood it, since when I was a kid. it doesn't really matter what part of that is, but you have to be involved in that, or else it's a little bit shallow, it a little bit, it just isn't really it, if you're not, if it doesn't include some sort of work towards a positive future, then you're just not really doing it, so I guess in terms of like Star Trek, that is just, it just was like, well, that's just a part of it. If I'm going to engage this community, if I'm going to ask them to come meet me at a convention, if I'm going to ask them to come watch our Twitch stuff or hang out with me, or direct them to something else, this is a part of it. It's also something that I'm super passionate about, have a lot of personal experience with, feel very lucky that I haven't had to deal with a lot of the consequences, or not consequences, deal with a lot of the realities that a lot of people have to do in the States, and am in a position where, I can help those people. I also think in this particular community, there aren't a lot of voices who are like, culture, celebrity. I'm doing air quotes, like celebrity stuff. You have some people who are working with like the mega nonprofits who aren't really actually doing any good. They're profiting, which is a bummer, and it also sort of siphons energy and focus away from the realities of the problems, like sort of on the ground problems towards the organizations that are more like lifestyle brands. Which, it's a bummer. I don't know. I'm not really here to critique other nonprofits, but it's not an equitable thing right now. Like if there was a balance between these things, then that's fine, but there obviously isn't. And that's on purpose, that's created. It's not because one is doing better work than the other. So feeling like there was a bit of a vacuum there, I felt like it was important for me to step into that vacuum, especially because, one of the things is, as insulin affordability, insulin for all becomes a bit more recognizable, politicians use it as a talking point, both good and bad a lot of the time. I feel like it's important for people to be able to put a face to it, even if it's a very small amount of people. So that way it feels like this issue affects someone right? Because there's only 3 million type 1 diabetics in the United States, and not all of them are insulin insecure. So it might not affect the person that but if you know me through the internet or through interacting with me on the internet, if you can come to me and ask me questions you have, and I can answer those questions, even if they're basic, what is this thing? I don't understand. What's that thing? I can answer those questions. Then suddenly you have a dog in the fight. And I feel like that's sort of a role that I can serve. And there are a lot of, and when it comes to this sort of thing, like you can't do it all on your own, so I'm doing this in tandem with a lot of people who are, way better at me at a lot of stuff, like way better at community organizing, way better at, organizing ways to affect practical change on the legislative level. I can't do that, but I can direct people to help you do that. I can legitimize an organization so that way, they can feel like they are operating in a way that makes them feel like, they do have some clout and some power. And really my hope is that I can open the door for somebody more famous than me to come in and actually fill this role. Because that's sort of what the ultimate goal is like, if these organizations can get a bit of a test run on somebody with like a little bit of energy, then once somebody who has some serious clout wants to step up, they'll be ready and know how to use these people. So that's my thought.
I love that.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
And I think you're the perfect person to kind of be pulling all this together, because you are in every person. You're Joe fan.
I'm Joe.
Or I guess Noah fan. You're Joe. Oh, sorry. You're Noah fan. You're Noah type 1. I mean, you're kind of like the everyman,
Yeah.
with this platform, and because of your personality and how outgoing and friendly you are, and not afraid of all these, scary fans befriending you and all this stuff. I mean, I really think that you're the perfect person for the role that you're in right now.
Well, thank you.
It's really interesting
Yay.
because I'm in a kind of privileged position where I live in a country where there's free universal healthcare at point of use. So anybody that I know that is type 1 diabetic doesn't go through all the issues of being concerned that they're going to be able to live a kind of healthy and fruitful life because they have access to insulin. But I also think there's an interesting juxtaposition between Star Trek fans being on board with this thing where Star Trek fans, as far as I see them, are always working towards this positive future. And I always imagine that things like hunger in type 1 diabetics don't exist in the Star Trek future because we've cured diabetes and we've got rid of capitalism so we don't have hunger. We don't have all the ills that capitalism brings.
Yeah. And I think that, that's my experience in the fan communities that I sort of interact with. I think what's great about Star Trek fans is they understand that as the goal, but they also understand that you can't just wish it. You have to do these little incremental things and keep fighting and keep pushing for inclusivity. And I've seen that again and again. And I really do appreciate that.
And I really liked what you said earlier about being part of the Star Trek community, that you need to give back somehow. Because that's something I was literally just thinking of that this morning as I'm kind of going through an existential crisis and having all my hopes and dreams shattered and all this other stuff. It's like, well,
and it's just the third one this
oh my
week.
gosh.
Totally.
And it's like, but what am I giving back? Like, okay, I'm in this dead end job and blah, 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 but it's like, I'm also not doing anything for anyone. So maybe it doesn't matter what kind of job I have. I need to find something where I can give back. And yeah, as a Star Trek fan, that's kind of a responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's also, it's a matter of like doing what you can, what are your skills? What do you bring to the table? You don't have to do it all. You get to continue the sort of Star Trek ideal is working as a community, and I think that's what's really great is that you don't have to sort of take on the burden of trying to fix it all yourself, do it all yourself, do everything. You get to be the engineer, you focus on the warp core and you let security deal with security. You do your role and suddenly it all comes together and that's what makes the ship go,
So Noah, you've been in the fandom long enough to know that there are quite a few fans who are like, keep politics out of Star Trek and sort of, going into that, you're talking about Joe with the healthcare and, legislation, like it, no matter what project or charity you're going to get into, it's going to be political. So how do you sort of talk to those fans when they are like, why just be an actor? Stop using this as a platform.
To be honest with you, I haven't actually really encountered this in the type 1 sphere because it is a bipartisan issue. There's critiques to be made on both sides. And generally, people aren't really in doing battle with me over it, which I have found. And I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I just don't really attract the people who want to do battle. I'm not really, the stuff I'm putting there is trying to like rally other people towards it as opposed to, really try and, there's other people on the internet who are really, really good at like driving towards a point when somebody's doing something wrong and setting that point right. Like Laura Marshall, like people who I really respect and are really better at me. I think I'm better at sort of rallying people around the issue. So for whatever reason, people haven't really showed up on my doorstep with that specific thing in this specific world. I think it's because it's actually kind of a bipartisan issue that in the States, Republicans are fucking it up. Republicans are messing it up, but also like there are some really serious critiques to be leveled at Democrats as well. So like whatever. In terms of like the rest of the internet culture, it's crummy, and I think ultimately it's sort of just like I don't really engage with that side of the fandom. because it's just crappy. And I think they either don't realize that, the people on the show are working their job and are trying to do the best they can and read the things you write, or they do realize that, and that's even worse. So either way, it's like you just are like, well, you know what, like, I'm not really interested in engaging with you. I'm not actually here to argue over whether or not, like, if you don't like the show, I honestly, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's no skin off my back if you don't like the show. You don't have to like the show. There's plenty of shows I don't like. You know what I mean? Just like, don't be a jerk about it.
Besides, with disco, you can always just put it on mute and look at David Ajala.
Yeah.
What's not
exactly.
to love?
Yeah. Exactly.
We've got a couple of quick fire rounds for you.
Sure. Absolutely.
We need you to keep your answers for this first round as short as possible, even though they're kind of really wide open questions.
I think what you're saying is like, you've been talking too much. Just a nice
Seriously,
quick
if you wanted
answer.
to stay with us, and we'd have like a 5-part Galaxy class series on Noah Averbach-Katz.
Yes.
You can talk as much as you want.
No, we're good. We're good.
We're just going to take it in the round and ask these questions. Keep them as short as possible. There will be points deducted if you talk too long. How did you get into Star Trek?
My mom.
Same. Good. Favorite characters?
Same with me.
Well, that's question 2.
Okay,
Rhea.
I thought I was going to ask the next
I'm
one.
sorry.
Joe.
I get too excited.
That's why I interjected, because I was going to ask the next one.
Shut up.
Okay, Joe. I got to put him in his place, Noah.
I know.
Okay. Hey, Noah, my favorite character is Deanna Troi. Who's your favorite characters?
Favorite characters are Tilly and Shran.
Love Shran. Oh my God.
You had to say Tilly, though, didn't you?
That's the answer.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It's in his contract.
Of course.
Yeah.
His marriage contract.
It's in my wedding vows. Yeah.
In the prenup, it's in there.
Favorite episodes?
Favorite episode, The Offspring.
I'm going to cry again.
Oh,
do I have a cosplay for you?
Crying.
Not me.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's favorite episode. There you go. That's it. One answer.
Data's little hands working so fast to try and save her.
All right. I've got a cosplay for you. Next time we're at a convention together, if I get my 6-pack.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
I'm ready.
All right. What resonates with you then and now as a Star Trek fan?
What resonates with me then and now? I think
2 words.
Star Trek can hold a lot in it. It's a form that can hold a lot. It can hold like some serious goofy campiness and some serious, heavy offspring. And that sort of resonates. It contains a lot in its form.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I had to leave the party early to come and do this interview, which is fine because I'd rather be here. But when I was explaining to family members where I was going, I said I do a Star Trek podcast and we're interviewing one of the actors. And
Quick answer,
I got
Joe.
kind of weird looks. It's like, what do you talk about when you talk about Star Trek? And you've answered it. It's like there's so much.
Yeah, what's not to talk about?
1,000 hours of the human condition. So
yeah.
Favorite series?
Enterprise.
Oh.
You realize you're on a TNG podcast.
I know where I am. Enterprise.
Home of Shran.
You know
Enterprise.
this really exists in the time of cancel culture. just saying.
Yeah, this is the thing that's going to end me. I'm willing to.
Come on, Joe. At least you didn't say Discovery. Favorite captain.
Favorite captain. Oh man, I don't really have a quick answer for this one.
Starts with a P. Yeah,
I was thinking about it. It probably is Picard.
Cisco?
I love Cisco, but I don't know if he's my. I'm going to actually say I don't have a favorite captain. I don't have an answer on this one. I'm going to abstain. I'm plead the fifth on this one.
I know I host a TNG podcast, but it is such a difficult question. It depends what if you want to win a war, it's Cisco. If you want a diplomat, it's Picard, and if you want to get people home, it's Janeway. They're both such strong people.
And if you want a Greek, it's Giorgio.
True.
There you go.
Favorite Star Trek actor you're not married to?
Favorite Star Trek actor I'm not married to. Oh, that's such a tough question. Boy. Well, I feel like that's a challenging question for me to answer now because I've met a lot of them in real life and they're super nice. They've been really nice to me. Like I've had amazing interactions with Maria Sirtis and with Jeffrey Combs and with John Billingsley. So like I would say maybe those three are my favorites because they were really nice to me in real life. And that's kind of all it takes. Yeah, she's amazing. When we were in London, I met her because she was there for a day and, you know, she had met Mary before and Mary introduced her to me and I was like going, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. She just thought I was like somebody's husband, you know, it's very nice. But I was sitting at my table signing and I see her from like across the room come storming up and she goes, oh my God, did your wife get you on this show? And I said, yeah, Marina, she did. And she had a good laugh about that. So I thought that was really, really funny.
While we're name dropping about Marina Sirtis, Noah, did Marina Sirtis ever kiss you at your first Star Trek convention?
Oh, okay. No, she did not. My wife was standing right there.
Just me. Okay,
come on, man.
That's
you.
Fine. I was.
Were you wearing a scant, Joe?
I can see why you're hooked for life now.
Were you in a scant at the time, Joe?
I was not.
That's just not fair.
I know I wasn't. I literally just arrived and she was having a cigarette outside the hotel and I was like, oh, it's a Star Trek convention. It's amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Is anyone more mesmerizingly beautiful than David Ajala, who you're not married to?
Who I'm not married to? Boy, I don't know. That disco cast is extremely attractive.
Ridiculous.
I don't know if like you can really pick and choose on that disco. Like I got to spend plenty of time around David, but I also got to spend a lot of time around Wilson. So you know,
close to the gym.
Also a beautiful.
Yeah. There's just a lot of, but of course, my wife. Yeah,
is she a camera threatening you with a knife at the moment?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, Noah, you scored 27 points in that round. Well done.
Thank you.
But out of 30.
Out of 15.
Out of 50. Wow. I really did good.
Who said there's logic to this scoring system? Nobody. Right, Noah, this round 2 is a little bit different.
All right, I'm ready.
It's the Scotland quiz.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I've got nothing.
And don't worry, because no one ever does. All our guests are subjected to this, and yet they still haven't pulled us off the air.
But you know what? It's fun and they love it. They do. All our guests love the Scotland
the one
quiz.
who's asking the questions.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's just something I do with my guests, so it's fine. Name the highest mountain in Scotland.
Mount Kilton Hyman. How's that?
Oh, I like it.
Kilton Hyman.
That's
partial credit.
That's
partial credit.
You went with
there.
Hyman though.
It's my Jewishness coming out. Hyman.
Okay. No, it's Ben Nevis.
Whatever.
Ben Nevis is.
There was an N in there.
Don't see whatever.
I'm absolutely gonna whatever. Listen. You're gonna.
Yeah.
I'm whatevering geography. I don't know what the tallest mountain in America is, and I don't care.
Right.
So how about that?
That's fair. I don't know what the tallest mountain in America is, and I love American geography.
All right, yeah, tables have turned.
Okay. Anyways, the Gaelic for whiskey is Ishbitha. Yeah.
Okay.
What is its literal meaning?
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Did I get it?
Is that your answer?
That's my answer.
Oh no, it's water of life.
What's the what? It's
water.
I got it.
Whiskey.
A whiskey.
Did you? Okay, you can have.
Hey, I want 4 points for that.
17.
Okay.
17 points.
Thank you.
Okay,
that counted.
Okay, so this is a question about an actor.
Okay.
Gerard Butler.
Sure.
Is from Scotland.
Yes.
He's one of our most successful exports.
Sure.
Because we do that. What did he originally train to become before he was an actor? He trained in something else.
Was he like a tap dancer or something like that? Or is that somebody else? Or was he like a boat captain?
That was me.
No, I can't see Gerard Butler being a tap dancer. I can see him being a boat captain, but both of those are wrong. It's a lawyer.
Oh, that's boring. Yeah.
So
I think you should add boat captain to that list because that's way more exciting.
It is.
Do you know what, Gerard Butler? He's kind of scary. I've never met him. He was on the same flight and he was really angry that the flight was delayed. So I'm not going to mess with him.
Fair enough.
Okay, so second last question. What is Scotland's national animal?
Bird. It's a bird, right?
No.
Two birds standing next to each other looking at a sheep.
Well, if it's not a bird, it's not going to be two birds.
Yeah, but it's all of them together.
Yeah. I have the picture.
No, it's a unicorn, Noah.
Can you believe that? A unicorn.
A unicorn.
Actually,
as a unicorn.
Hey, Joe, you get minus 12 points for that. That's absurd.
Noah. Do you know who I am?
You're minus 12 points.
Noah.
Right. I'm going to send you a cease and desist. Okay, golf was invented in Scotland. How many golf courses does Scotland have?
It's either 72 or 4.
It's 550.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Not even close.
So it's like one for every 2 people.
Let's wrap this up. Because Noah's the first
Joe's
guest.
Go too far in the negative points here.
Yeah, Noah's the first guest that spoiled the Scotland quiz forevermore. So, Noah, I suppose we have to wrap this up by asking you about season 4 of Discovery. And I just need you to, I know you said you didn't want you to talk about it, but I suppose you kind of alluded to it.
Sure.
Can you confirm the reason that we haven't seen the Klingons in like the 32nd century is on Kronos they had a gender reveal party which went horribly wrong and caused the DMA?
Yeah, actually I think what happened is all the Klingons moved to Scotland and they're just hanging out there playing golf. That's canon.
Enjoying the water of life.
That's canon.
Riding the unicorns.
This is Klingon riding unicorns.
There we
That's
go.
the name of the episode.
There you go.
That's right. Playing golf.
Work that into the next D&D.
All right, I will.
That'd be amazing. I'd play. Noah, thank you so much. You've been such a good guest. Thank you for being so gracious and so forthcoming with your answers.
My pleasure, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Where can listeners find you if they want to kind of stalk you online?
You can come hang out with me on Twitch at the Type 1 Trekkie, or come play D&D with us at Disco Does D&D on Twitch, or on Twitter I'm an AK with some underscores in there. You'll find me.
I don't know what Twitch is, but I'm going to go and Google that now and download it and install it and learn the rules of D&D.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, friends.
Thank you for joining.
Hey, are you going on the cruise? Are you going to Chicago? Are you going to STLV?
I'm not going to the cruise because Mary's doing a play, so we can't do the cruise this year. We haven't heard anything about Chicago.
I know. It's sort of feeling.
Who am I going to party with?
All right, you guys.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Noah, go and enjoy your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Fantastic. All right,
Cool.
have a good one, guys.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye, Noah. Thank you.
Bye.
Incoming transmission.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show and hope you'll join the Facebook group Federation Council Chambers. You're welcome to start conversations with us or add any general Star Trek info you want to share with the group.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us directly at galaxyclass@ufp.earth and we will read your email on the show. You can also follow us on Twitter @GalaxyClassPod.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating, and written review. That way you can help others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcasts with our master feed by searching United Federation of Podcasts. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows like All Good Things with the one and only Amy Nelson, Franchise Fatigue, Always Hold On to Arrow, History with the Szilagys, Mickey's Marvels, Sasquatch, and Infinite Diversity. So, Amy, where can people find you when you are not turning down jobs in administration and other stuff so you can continue to be a teacher and play Dungeons & Dragons with Noah AK on the side?
I would love to do that. You can find me, as you said, on All Good Things, all of Star Trek, with my good friend Mark White as my co-host. I am on Union Federation Podcast on the FPN Network, Fandom Podcast Network. You can find me on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, and of course in the Federation Council Chambers. And Joe, where can people find you when you aren't annoying our guests with your Scottish quiz every single time?
I think you'll find at the top of the episode, it doesn't really matter how I say the guest's name. They love it because of my accent. So Scottish people are universally loved. Kind of more so than Greek people.
Hardly, but
it's true.
I'll let you have it.
I don't know, Rhea. I have to give that point to Joe because
Marina
you
Sirtis?
love when Joe says your
Yes, Ria
name.
Papa Giorgio.
It is
Ria
pretty.
Papa Giorgio.
It is pretty.
Anyways, when I'm not doing any of all of that, you can find me on the Federation Council Chambers. You can email me, joepodcasts@gmail.com, or you can tweet me on the Twitter at joeyjoe77uk. Ria, where can people find you when you're not trying to force our guests into being Greek?
Well,
That goes for both of you.
when I'm not trying to force my guests into being Scottish or knowing about when I'm not
what?
trying to force my guests into being Greek. Sorry. You can find me sharing silly TNG memes on the Federation Council Chambers. You can also send me an email at riapod47@gmail.com if you still do that old-fashioned email thing. I guess that's it. Well, we're all off our game, Joe. Thank you.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/UFPEarth to get all the details. A huge shout out to Davey Willett, our very own show supporter. Thank you so much.
We would like to recognize our executive producers, Brandon Shea Mutella, Ken Tripp, Zach Moore, and Tony Robinson. We would also like to thank Zach Tripp for our opening and closing music, and Tony Robinson for our amazing artwork.
Thank you for beaming aboard Galaxy Class, and until next time,
Great joy and gratitude.
David Ajala is beautiful. Stay classy, Galaxy.
universal healthcare for all.
Engage.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.